discussing these things. So now, uh, before starting this concept in programming language, we have to understand why we are studying this concept. What happens that when you are automating the real world scenarios with the help of computer system and using programming language, in real world situation you face sometimes that you have to take the decision. So what happens that if you are university vice chancellor or head of the institution, so you have certain guidelines that if a student is scoring these marks, this percentage of marks, then it should be placed in different categories. If it is greater than 75% marks percentage wise, then you place that person in the category of first honors. If it is 60 to 75, less than 75, then it should be placed between first division, and then second division, third division, and then the fail student who could not be promoted. So in these type of situations, and if you are developing any software like that, so you have to understand the functionality, or language should provide you the functionality in which you can take decisions. And decisions are always taken on the basis of some conditions, that if we fulfill some condition, then we will go this way, and if we fulfill this condition, we will go this way. For example, in recent environment, if you see, in COVID situations, if you have the COVID negative report, then only you can enter in the neighboring state or the cities where lockdown is imposed. Otherwise, you have to be you will be returned, or you will be forcefully put into quarantine. So these type of things are there in our real world, where we have situations and accordingly we decide what is to be done on the basis of some conditions. So we have to incorporate that scenario with the help of programming language, so that we are able to uh, in better way implement our real world scenarios, because everything cannot be mathematical. Up to this point we have understood only the mathematics part, like mathematical operators we can do, information processing we can do. But if we are doing that processing, and if we want to take the decision, then how to take that decision? So we are going to discuss now two concepts in this lecture. One is, sometimes we have to do certain tasks repeatedly, that if this thing is means if this thing is there, then we have to do these things repeatedly, or sometimes we have to take decision that if this condition is true, then do these things, and if this condition is not true, then do these things. So like that it happens. So we are going to discuss those concepts here in this class. So here we have three construct for the control statements in our programming language. One is called if else conditions, and then the second part is called conditions and the repetitions. Okay, so in case of only conditions, where we take decisions, if we go in that direction or that direction, we use two programming construct. One is if else, and second one is switch case. Third, in the second case, where we also do these things, but on the basis of we also do the repetition of the task, so we call that concept iteration or repetition on the basis of the condition. So we have there four construct, like for loop, while loop, do while loop, and go to statements. Go to statement is written there, it is part of the C language, but it is not advisable that you ever use go to statement. So it is just for understanding the go to statement, but make sure that you will never use this functionality, because it is very complicated and not good for understanding of the program. So what happens in if else condition or if else statements, that if you have an expression, if that expression is true, then one statement is executed. If that expression is not true, then next statement will be calculated. But in if else conditions, what happens, we have certain variations. So we are going to discuss those variations here. Suppose you want to take this you want to say something, that if some student is coming regularly in the classes, for example the attendance of that student is more than 90%, so you have understood that that student is very laborious and sincere in the classes and attending lot of classes. So you want to give that student some leverage in terms of the marks. You want to increase 5 marks for that student. So you do what? You take the expression here and you check if the attendance is greater than 95%, then add marks, means increase marks by 5. And then again you follow the same route. You go to the next statement and then you go like that. So if this is the condition, then this construct will be used. In the second condition, what happens? That you take decision, you have one condition and you take decision in both the ways. Okay, that if your attendance is greater than 90%, then you will be rewarded, and if your attendance is less than 90%, then you will be punished. So in that case, you do what? If your attendance is greater than this, then you whatever you want to do with that student or the marks of that student, you will write those statements here. Else you will write statements here, and then the course of action will follow the next statement. Like that it will happen. Now sometimes what happens, you do not have only single condition, you have multiple conditions, as we discussed in case of the percentage, because there are many classifications. Student can be fail, or student can be passed. Student may pass in the first division, second division, third division, or with distinction or gold medalist. So in that case, since there are multiple conditions, so you have to take into account this scenario also. So you implement these things with the help of if else ladder, which is like if, else if, else if, else if, and else. So whatever number of conditions you have, you implement those things in this type of situation using this 3 type. So we understand a very simple example here, that if to understand the functionality of the if else condition, so we will say whether, if we will take one number from the user and we will see if that number is odd or even. So to understand whether number is odd or even, we need to understand if it is divisible by 2 or not. If it is divisible by 2, then we say it is even, and if it is divisible, if it is not divisible by 2, then we say it is not even, it is odd number. So we have taken one number, int number, and then we are taking that number from the user, and then we are doing it number divided by 2. I am not using here division, I am using here modulus operator because it gives me remainder. So if I write here just slash, then it will be division. Okay, so here you have to use this modulus operator if you want the remainder of any division. So if it is true, it means if number is divisible by 2, divisible by 2 means the remainder will be 0. So 0 equals to 0. It means the number is even, else the number is false, or number is even and else the number is odd. So if you take number 5, then it will print number odd. So this way you see that how to implement your if else conditions. Similarly, if you increase the condition, or if you have some situation in which you want to place whether A is greater than B, or using the conditional operator, just we have discussed that thing. So then you write this condition if A equals to B, because if you have two numbers, then there are 3 situations. Both the numbers can be equal, one number can be greater than the second one, and the second one can be greater than the first one. So in these 3 things, we have written these conditional statements. If A equals to B, then A is equal to B, else if A is greater than B, then A is greater than B. And in the third case, since we have covered 2 conditions and only 3 conditions can exist, so third condition will come in else. We don't need to write specifically that A is less than B. So this way, if you have more than one condition and if you want to use them, then you can use if else conditions or if else statement like this, and you can do that programming.